The Secrets of Doctor Who is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous supporters. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/donate. You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, episode 142.
One day, I shall come back.
That's it. I've been renewed.
As when a Time Lord's body wears out, he regenerates.
I'm a Time Lord. I'm not a human being. I walk in eternity. Braveheart TV.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding!
Position person.
Wearing a bit thin.
Fantastic. Hell, Scottish. I can complain about things.
Ooh. Should be fine.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC series, Doctor Who. And today we're discussing the 10th Doctor story, The Unicorn and the Wasp. Joining me today on the panel are Father Corey Stika. Hi, Father Corey.
How's it going, Dom?
Very well, thank you. And Jimmy Aiken. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, before we get started, I want to remind you to like The Secrets of Doctor Who on Facebook at facebook.com/Secrets of Doctor Who. And retweet us on Twitter when the show gets posted, where we're at SQPN. And be sure to leave us comments and respond to the show and help us to create a conversation around the episodes as we go. We love to interact with you online, and we can also bring some of that commentary into these episodes with your feedback. So we really do appreciate that. So I want to first mention that this show, The Unicorn and the Wasp, aired originally May of 2008. And it features the Doctor and Donna, and it's the third season with this Doctor. So it's we're getting close to the end of his time with this with this episode. Each episode brings us closer to the regeneration and the departure of Donna. And so some really good episodes coming up. But this one,
the next three episodes are awesome.
Yes, and and in some ways it causes sometimes fans to overlook this one. But I really enjoy this one. I do. I mean,
did you?
I do. I like a detective story.
Father, what did you think?
This one was a little more campy than I remembered.
Okay.
I kind of enjoyed it, but yeah, it was a little more on the camp and less on the detective story for me.
Jimmy, you didn't like this one.
I didn't like this one, and I had not watched it since I originally got it years ago. Because I remember not liking it.
Yeah.
There are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is, and there are minor criticisms as well, but one of the things that I often don't like about episodes, especially in modern Who, where you meet a historical figure, is the Doctor feels the need to gush and gush and gush about how awesome this person is.
Oh, yes.
Right.
And, like, meet Shakespeare. Let's just totally gush about Shakespeare and how awesome he is. Let's meet Agatha Christie and just gush about how totally awesome she is, or Charles Dickens, or whoever it is.
Vincent van Gogh, yeah.
Vincent van Gogh is the one that I think works the best. I actually like Vincent. That's a good episode.
It might be one of my favorite episodes, yes.
Yeah, and I'll mention why that works, but this one doesn't. Or one of the reasons this one doesn't. But I hate all the gushing about the historical figures because it elevates them and it's informed. It's what's a trope that's sometimes called informed attributes. Instead of showing me the person's attributes by what they do, you're informing me as a cheap writing trick to try to get me to like this person instead of showing me that they're likable.
Right. You're taking a shortcut. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a cheap writing shortcut. So the rule in writing is show, don't tell. And this is tell rather than show. The other thing I don't like about this one in particular is I love mystery stories. I've read the complete Sherlock Holmes multiple times. I've owned Columbo, the entire series. I'm a big mystery fan, but not of Agatha Christie. When I've tried reading Agatha Christie or watching Agatha Christie movies like Murder on the Orient Express or reading the book And Then There Were None, they're entirely too contrived. Now, contrivance is something that's a danger in any mystery story, especially ones that are long-running like Sherlock Holmes or Columbo. because you need to find ways to shake up the formula, and that means you take some risks that can come across as contrived. Well, Agatha Christie did these sort of cozy British mysteries that have ridiculous, totally unbelievable elements, premises, like it's an island and people are being killed off one by one and they all die, including the murderer who ends up killing himself at the end, just for completeness sake. Or it's a train and people are being killed off, or someone is killed off, and in tracking down who did it, it turns out all the passengers on the train were in on the murder.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And, and stuff like that. So they're very overly contrived, at least the ones that I've read. Now, I'm not saying Agatha Christie never wrote good stuff. I just haven't found it yet. Maybe some of the listeners will recommend something that's not ridiculously over contrived. I would love that. I'd love to find things to like about Agatha Christie.
By the way, Jimmy, spoilers for those who haven't done Murder on the Orient Express. Just kidding.
Spoilers.
Well, they do spoil that in this episode.
Exactly.
You watch this episode, Donna suggests the plot of Murder on the Orient Express to Agatha Christie.
Yep.
Which is another danger of Doctor Who historicals, where you meet a historical figure and, guess what? All of Shakespeare's future play ideas came from the Doctor and Martha. And all of Agatha Christie's future novel ideas came from Donna.
Well, they did kind of poke at it, though, on this, where Donna wanted, a share in the copyright.
Well, that was hanging a lantern on it, but it just made the pattern more obvious. But what I was going to say is, not being a fan of Agatha Christie, at least so far, I'm not especially enamored of an episode whose plot structure is consciously modeled after an Agatha Christie story.
Right. Internally modeled for internal reasons. Right. Okay. All right. I mean, I still like it, but I accept your explanation. I can see your point.
I don't hate it. It's just not it's not above the 50% mark for me. I would say this is a 4.
Okay. So one thing that gets me is apparently this is supposed to take place in December.
December 3rd, 1926. Yeah, and this is the balmiest December in England, I think, has ever happened.
I know. Yeah, but I think that anybody who lives in England would love to have December like this every year. That's for sure. So, Jimmy, as the mysterious world maven that you are, Agatha Christie really did disappear mysteriously for 10 days or some days in 1926 with no memory of what happened.
Well, she said she had no memory. She disappeared for like 10 days. And by the way, yes, people have asked, will we do Agatha Christie's disappearance in the future? And we may, if I can find enough either to build a whole episode around or to include it as a mini mystery in a composite episode of Mysterious World. But yeah, she disappeared. She had just found out her husband was having an affair on her. And she then showed up and claimed to not remember what happened to her.
Right.
I think that's in all likelihood, my guess before doing extensive research, but just based on the little reading I have done about it, is she was lying and she totally knew what was happening the whole time. And she either had a nervous breakdown and couldn't deal with things and needed to get away from everybody, or she was using her disappearance to punish her husband for the affair, or some combination of those things.
Interesting. Yeah. So the differences between what really happened and what they say here in the show is, in the episode, they said 10 days. Her car was found next to a lake, and she arrived at the Harrogate Hotel. In real life, her car was found next to a quarry. It was really 11 days, and she was spotted in the Hydropathic Hotel dancing in the ballroom on the 11th day. So so it's some differences from reality, but it's for the sake of the story, we'll go with it. Also, I just want to point out, missing bees are mentioned again, which is part of this Missing Planets arc that they're building this season.
Bees? Why would bees be missing?
That wasn't creepy at all. So, so originally there were it was an opening and a closing scene added on to this episode of Agatha Christie in the 70s, with having flashbacks to the events, and in the closing, seeing the Doctor and Donna present a copy of her book, Death in the Clouds, from the year 5 billion. Now, they do that whole Death in the Clouds from the year 5 billion with a different scene at the end. But that was originally going to be the frame narrative for this episode, and they decided to change it for whatever reason. In addition to there being tons of references to Agatha Christie novels, there's a lot of references and connections to the British version of the board game Clue.
Which they call Cluedo.
Cluedo, yes. All the characters resemble characters from the game, and there's even a lead pipe, a knife, and a revolver as murder weapons, as well as we see candlesticks and a length of rope at some point. So
yeah. And, of course, that it happened in the library.
Yes.
Right at the beginning, we see Professor Peach killed with a pipe in a library by a wasp.
Right. And Donna does kind of make that connection. Because Professor Peach in the library with a lead pipe, like she kind of makes that connection for us. So that's fun.
Instead of Professor Plum.
Yes. Well, yeah. No, so people have made other references. Like there's a Colonel Mustard. Yes.
Well, thing too, if you look at the transcript, and there's Chicotea, or however you pronounce it, that has the Doctor Who transcripts. All the Agatha Christie books are in the script.
Yes, the person who does the transcript put it in italics.
Put them in italics, you can see them, but all of the books are part of the dialogue of the episode at some point or another. It's
awkwardly placed or not.
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes it's a little obviously a shoehorn in. So the also just another little bit. David Tennant's dad has a cameo as a footman, not that footman, but as a footman without lines in the background. Apparently, he showed up on set one day and they shanghaied him and put him in a costume and shoved him into the scene. And he had a lot of great fun. So I thought that was really neat. David Tennant's dad. So the Doctor and Donna show up in England in 1926, and the Doctor says he can tell what the year it is by the smell in the air. Apparently, he can. Time Lords have this ability to tell what year it is by smell.
But then Donna takes the punch out of him by saying, or maybe it's that classic car that's driving up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So they're going to have cocktails on the lawn with Lady Edison, and the Doctor uses his psychic paper to invite himself.
And this is our second Doctor Who episode that I can think of off the top of my head that is based around a garden party at an English country house.
Yes.
The other being Black Orchid, which is from Peter Davison's Fifth Doctor time. And we're going to be seeing that pretty soon on, I think maybe our next Peter Davison episode is going to be Black Orchid.
Right, cool. Right. So Lady Edison tells them that there's a jewel thief on the loose called the Unicorn. And then we meet all the players one by one, including Robina Redmond. Do you guys recognize Robina, the actress who plays Robina Redmond?
I didn't.
I don't remember I looked. I think I saw it, but I don't remember who she is.
She is Felicity Jones, who will play Jyn Erso in Rogue One.
Oh,
so I thought that was very interesting. I see these actors like I know that person from somewhere, and then I look it up and I find it. Yeah. So I thought that was a little fun. She doesn't get much of a role here, but it's an early role for her. 2008.
She gets a title role. She's the Unicorn.
She is the Unicorn. She doesn't get much use out of that, I suppose. But she gets to use a couple different accents, which is fun. Agatha Christie, the Doctor notes the date is the day she disappears, so it's also the day she discovers that her husband was cheating. They discover Professor Peach in the library, and the Doctor poses as a policeman with Donna as his plucky assistant, because women were not policemen back then, while Agatha Christie finds a clue in the fireplace. A clue, so to speak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Doctor discovers morphic residue, which means that an alien is involved. Some kind of
shapeshifter.
Yes. Yep. Some kind of goo. Looked like honey to me, but, it could be.
Yeah. The premise of bees.
Yeah. Also, Donna has been early on faking period speech that she's like picked up from reading
very badly
P.G. Wodehouse novels or something, and it's comically overdone. And so the Doctor's like, "Don't do that," which is a line that will come back in 3 episodes from now in Midnight, where the Doctor also tells Donna not to speak a certain way. Don't do that.
Well, of course, that's been an ongoing thing, too, because, of course, you had Rose when they're facing Queen Victoria and tries to pull the bad accent. And
yes, that's right. No, don't do that. he does do that very, very well there. We didn't mention that Professor Peach in the library, where we see him, he says, "I was right, kept secret all these years. It's unbelievable. But why didn't they ask? Heavens," which, by the way, that's a title of a Agatha Christie novel. And that's when he's killed. And So he's discovered something that's important for later.
I read that all of these Agatha Christie references like that were added by Russell T Davies as he was revising the script by Gareth, whatever his name is,
Edwards. Yeah,
Gareth Edwards. That he amused himself by seeing how many of these he could sprinkle in there.
Yeah, I don't. That is sort of annoying. That's like a script should be something that's crafted, not just like sprinkled things in for your amusement. But
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Well, I'm not a scriptwriter, so
as long as it comes across as not forced. Like when the professor in the opening scene in the teaser drops a line, it's not Donna suggesting a plot or a title to where it's just natively part of the dialogue, and it doesn't stand out. So it's a lanyap for the audience. Yeah. If you know, you'll recognize the reference, but if you don't know, it'll just glide past and it won't seem weird. That's doing it well.
It's basically fan service for Agatha Christie fans is what it was.
Well, in that case, it's like the Doctor wears a brown suit all the time. Well, that's an Agatha Christie novel, The Man in the Brown Suit. So it's right off the bat. It's one of those. So now Donna does make a point. She's like, there's a murder at this party that Agatha Christie's at. And she says, it's like meeting Charles Dickens, who's surrounded by ghosts at Christmas, which the Doctor did do as the Ninth Doctor. He doesn't mention it, but he kind of gets that look on his face. It's interesting how the Doctor gets all excited about solving a murder mystery with Agatha Christie. She kind of slaps him down. How like a man to have fun while there's disaster all around him. I thought that was a very sobering moment, the Doctor kind of being put in his place.
And at this point, the Doctor is pretending to be, as you said, a detective from Scotland Yard. And certainly a detective should be professional enough not to be gleeful at the prospect of solving a murder, even if he is with Agatha Christie.
So they do this, the classic interrogating everyone one by one in the sitting room. And it's this funny flashback sequence that we get where they have to kind of call people back from their, like, especially the Colonel. Lord.
It was a little too much fun flashback.
He's thinking about Can girls in his flashback and stuff.
Right. Yeah. And they all, in his flashback, he's having a flashback to Can girls.
So that's a little meta. And then also Lady Edison, she's in her flashback. She's explaining what she did in the afternoon. And then I met you. And then we continue to see the scene where she met him. And it's like, no, okay, I was there.
But they all lie about what they were doing, which is very interesting. They all weren't doing what they say they were doing, and none of them have alibis.
Notice that is very Agatha Christie. That is that is Murder in the Orient Express.
Right.
They're all lying. But the question is, are they all guilty in this case?
Although Lady Edison's son has an alibi that he can't reveal.
Right. Yeah.
So we find out that the scrap of paper that was in the fireplace that Agatha Christie found says maiden on it. So what does that mean? We don't know. Meanwhile, Donna has been sent, the plucky assistant, has been sent to go snoop around in the rooms upstairs while everyone's being interrogated.
With a literal magnifying glass.
With a literal magnifying glass, which the Doctor just pulls out of an inner pocket. I love his bottomless pockets. She has a bedroom that's been closed off for 40 years. When she came back from India, she had malaria, I think it was what she said, and stayed in there so that no one would see her. That becomes important.
For 6 months.
For 6 months. It's a long time. And she discovers a giant wasp outside the window who flies in, and she uses the magnifying glass and the sun to burn it and escape from its giant stinger.
So this is part of Donna's season story arc, as she is becoming more and more like the Doctor. She's being further self-actualized to where she's investigating on her own, while the Doctor trusts her to go investigate on her own and sends her on that mission. And then she successfully defends herself against a monster, and she's like a mini Doctor on her own in this scene.
The Dr. Donna.
The Dr. Donna is coming up.
Yep. So then the Indian housekeeper, when she finds out, she goes running. Someone has discovered the lady's secret, she says. The poor little... Well, she runs outside, and then someone pushes a gargoyle off the side of the house, and she stands under it screaming as it falls toward her, instead of jumping out of the way. It's as it slowly tips forward at her. And as she dies, she says, "The poor little child." A clue. That must be a clue.
Yeah. Another clue is also the housekeeper is Indian, and that's where Lady Edison came back from with the malaria, and that would explain why she knows about this secret, because she came back with Lady Edison from India.
Yeah, that malaria, it's catchy. So Agatha, that now is alone with Donna, she feels overwhelmed by everyone's expectations of her to solve the crimes.
Yeah, and this gets to one of my points about why I think Vincent works better than the Unicorn and the Wasp.
Okay.
Agatha Christie spends a bunch of this episode moping. Other people expect her to be the genius mystery writer who must therefore naturally be a great detective, like Jessica on Murder, She Wrote.
Right.
and she's like, no, I've failed. If anyone can help us, it's the doctor, not me, which plays into one of my other least favorite tropes on the show, building up the doctor ridiculously. But she spends a lot of this episode moping about her own failure, and it's not, and then in the end, the doctor reverses it, and it's like, Agatha, you're the best. If anyone can solve this, it's you. Yeah. And so this mutual adoration I really hate. What Vincent did was it showed us another artist. You know, like Agatha Christie's a literary artist. Vincent's a painter. It shows us an artist who is down and depressed, and it plays it not for just plot gimmicks involving mutual praise. Vincent is genuinely vulnerable, and we have this heartbreaking ending that is beautiful and sad and glorious all at the same time, and that's what we don't get here.
Well, and that, with Vincent, we that's a known aspect of the actual person. He was depressed. He there was no value seen in his art until after he died.
Yeah. And they don't pull the punch on his real fate, which is he does, even despite everything the doctor and Amy do for him, that he still ends up in the same tragic fate. I mean, that's one of the things that makes that so great. And I say that. Yeah, that is a much greater episode than this one. That's for certain. Yeah.
And while they don't change Vincent's fate, they still find a way to lighten it for us by they give Vincent a glimpse of how he will be remembered, and it's beautiful.
I don't remember I think Moffat wrote that one. Stephen Moffat wrote that one. And it shows the difference between Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies. I'm sorry, but I think that's the difference. But everyone feels like they're concerned that it all seems like something out of her books. Like the way that these murders are unfolding is just like the plot of an Agatha Christie novel, and she's very concerned with that. This is Dom Bettinelli of the StarQuest Production Network, and we need your help. Over the past year, we've grown by leaps and bounds. Some of our podcasts, like Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, are among the most popular shows we've ever produced, but that success is in danger. Creating a dozen shows has caused our expenses to rise, and right now, we aren't making ends meet. We must reach the financial break-even point if we're going to continue. If our reserves are depleted, we'll have to cut back many of our shows. We might have to shut down entirely. That's why it's crucial we hear from you right now. Please go to sqpn.com/give and click the Become a Patron button to make your monthly pledge. If you're already a supporter, please consider increasing your pledge. The need is urgent, so please go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. Meanwhile, she discovers a burglar's toolkit in the garden, in the flower bed. And the unicorn's toolkit, maybe? The doctor is poisoned with cyanide, and he has to detox. Someone poisons his drink, so he engages in crazy charades with Donna, which was funny. He's trying to get her to get him, things like protein and
it's funny if it works. And then he uses his mysterious, fakey Time Lord biology to expel a cloud of cyanide residue. Yeah.
Right. He does need a final shock to on the system, so she kisses him, which is very funny. Then so at dinner, he's trying to uncover the Vespa form. So they've discovered that this is a shape changer, someone who looks like a human but also is a giant wasp. So he laces the soup with pepper, whose active ingredient is piperine, an insecticide. Is that true? Is that piperine an insecticide? You know,
I haven't checked it out. I assume that they're being accurate with the science at this point. I mean, Wikipedia did exist when this was made.
I've not heard of that one being sprayed over the crops around here, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yes. Jerk Criversley says, I thought it was jolly spicy.
Well, I would assume it's used was used as an insecticide prior to the advent of industrial insecticides. Right. And I know of similar things like cinnamon has been used for dealing with ants.
Yes.
Because ants apparently don't like cinnamon.
Yeah. On cue, the storm blows the windows open and blows out the candles, and the Vespa form appears. Roger is killed in his soup. Poor Roger. Lady Edison's necklace is stolen, and we find out that the necklace is from India. Interesting. Mm-hmm. The only one we've eliminated from contention here so far is dead Roger, dead housekeeper, dead Professor Peach, and the butler. The butler did not do it in this case because they were with the butler.
We saw, the butler was not around, was around when the Vespa form was, and thus can't be the Vespa form.
Right. The doctor tells Agatha that she's so good as a mystery writer because she knows people so well. And then we have the classic confrontation scene where everybody is gathered into the library, and one by one she goes through them to say, it's the Columbo thing. You know that whole scene.
Oh, no. This is Columbo. Columbo does not sit around with a room full of suspects and eliminate them one by one.
Okay.
Columbos are Hal Ketchums. They're not whodunits. They're Hal Ketchums.
Okay.
We see from the very opening sequence before Columbo ever shows up, we know who the criminal is.
Okay.
So that's never in doubt. The question is how is Columbo going to catch him?
Okay.
This let's have a room of suspects and talk about him is a trope of British, a lot of British mysteries, but they're whodunits because that's why we gather everyone together to process who could and couldn't have done it. And I thought this scene was really lame for a couple of reasons. Some of them are just things happening in the background. Donna is eating during this scene.
Popcorn?
She's got like popcorn.
Yeah.
And she's not taking this scene seriously. The doctor, through a bunch of it, looks bored. I mean, like he's been given stage direction to look bored.
Yes.
During this scene. And then he gets up and starts making these overly dramatic, silly, false, what appear to be false accusations that are misunderstood. So he points at Donna and says, "It was you, Donna Noble." And she's like, "What? I didn't commit a crime." It's no, it was you who did this other thing. And then he points, "It was you, Agatha Christie." And it's like, "I didn't commit a crime." It's like, "No, you did this other thing." And it's meant to be funny, and to me it was not.
It's campy, right?
Yeah.
Well, then Donna said, "Well, she did it for real, right?" No. Well, she did it, right?
Oh,
no.
Then it was her. Yeah, you're right. We get the references. The doctor says, "I've called you here on this endless night." That's a novel. Agatha says, "This is a crooked house." Another novel. So Robina is revealed. Robina Redmond is not really Robina Redmond. She's the unicorn. With a Cockney accent. Then we've
instead of the posh one she's been affecting.
Yes. Throws the necklace back. Agatha, Agatha, turns to the colonel. The colonel stands up. "Damn it, woman, with your perspicacity, you've rumbled me. I can walk." And she's like, no, I was just going to say that you're the only one here who's got nothing against you. I thought that was kind of funny. He was faking his illness to keep his wife.
Own secret.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, to keep his wife from leaving him because she's so much younger than him or something. So we go through the whole list and we get to Reverend Golightly, the Reverend, and
the young priest.
And of course, it has to be the priest.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
It's always our fault.
So we find out that Lady Edison didn't have malaria in India. She was pregnant and returned home with her maid, Miss Chandrakala, to give birth. And the doctor reveals that she was pregnant with an alien baby with the Vespa form. And so it turns out that Reverend Golightly was a half Vespa form child who had been sent to an orphanage. And the jewel in the necklace turns out to be telepathic and beamed Agatha Christie's novel into his brain. And then he rejects our tribal sky god.
Yeah, there are a few a few things. So there are a few additional things about this. We get some flashback to 20 years or 30 or 40, not 40, but 30 years before where, or maybe it is 40.
It's 40.
To India, where we see the Vespa form, who is in human form at this point. And he's very dashing and handsome, and he romances the young Lady Edison. And he even reveals to her his secret, that he's a giant space wasp.
Yes.
But she's so in love that she doesn't care, and they conceive the baby, and then he drowns in a flood.
Yes.
And so that's why he's not with her anymore. But he gave her this alien jewel thing, which is called like the Firestone.
Yes.
Even though it's clearly looks like an amethyst instead of a ruby. It's not red. It doesn't look like fire.
Right.
But he gave her that, and that's effectively for Vespa forms what the Doctor's watch was in human nature. Right. It's a device that contains his identity and allows him to function as a pure human. And so it's like this device lets the Vespa forms appear human and have a human body, and it also is capable of these telepathic things. So this one has the true identity of the priest, Reverend Golightly. He was raised in an orphanage. There's an earlier reference to him being raised by the Christian fathers and things they taught him. And he then grew up not knowing he was a giant space wasp because he's always had a human body.
Right.
And he became a priest, and we get a flashback of his where he's in church, and his church, and he catches these guys stealing sacred liturgical furnishings from the altar. And that's what gets him mad. And this, I thought, was effectively done. As he gets mad, he starts twitching. His head is jerking to one side, and he starts speaking with this buzzing. Put those things back, and then he
glows
in
purple.
the Doctor's words, he glows purple. And in the Doctor's words, it broke the genetic lock.
Yes.
And that's when his identity was beamed into his head, along with Agatha Christie novel information from
Clemency,
Lady Edison's jewel.
Yep.
Yeah. And I thought this was well done. I liked this. What I didn't like was he has totally turned his back on humanity. You humans worshiping your tribal sky gods.
Right.
It's like, okay, what would have been vastly more interesting is a priest who's a giant space wasp who sincerely is still, because he obviously is sincere here. It was the boys taking the sacred vessels that made him mad.
Right.
What would be interesting is him maintaining that. He's a giant space wasp who still wants to be an Anglican priest.
Yeah, but we can't have that because we got to show that Christianity is a fraud or something because atheism.
But it would have been cool to see that conflict in him of knowing how different he really is from humanity, and yet he's an alien, which would be a connection with our recent episode, by the way, on Mysterious World about aliens and religion.
Including, could aliens become priests?
Yes, that's a very interesting question. But I think it's a missed opportunity here because what they needed him to do was to go crazy and to start attacking people. That's where we needed him to go, and so that's what they kind of short circuit that into that direction. So Agatha blames herself for him because Lady Edison was reading the Agatha Christie novel at the time of the telepathic link, and that's what it is. And so his template for the world or something is an Agatha Christie murder mystery or something. It was a little shaky, that explanation.
And Lady Edison has been established as a huge Agatha Christie fan, so she's got all this other Agatha Christie plot knowledge and stuff in her head that presumably went through the link as well.
So Agatha grabs the jewel and gets Golightly to follow her. Donna,
because Agatha Christie realizes my books have now caused all of this, and that's why all of these people have died. So now she's taking responsibility and is going to deal with it.
Right. So she drives off,
even though she's really not responsible. You can't, if you're a mystery writer, you can't reasonably foresee that one of your fans is going to telepathically download all your novel information into the head of a giant space wasp just at the moment his identity is revolutionized.
I certainly cannot foresee that happening with these podcasts. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No.
So she stops by a lake with the stone, and Donna grabs her. The doctor refuses to attack the wasp. So Donna grabs the stone and throws it in the lake, knowing that how you kill a wasp is drowning it. She knew what was going to happen. So the Vespa form follows it in and drowns.
Just like its father died in a flood.
Exactly. And and Donna, like, she doesn't try to whitewash it. She says, I killed that thing. It's a wasp. Yeah. The doctor's a little upset, but not enough, I think.
Right.
Yeah. This is also an altered ending, because in the original script, the doctor was the one who was going to kill the wasp.
Yes.
And David Tennant objected, and he didn't want the doctor to be portrayed doing that, so they shifted the role to Donna.
Right. And then it turns out that Agatha is connected to the stone telepathically. And so
because it's her novels, and that is like relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the Vespa form dies, it lets go of her. It could have dragged her with it, sort of like the Genesis planet and Spock. And lets her go, and her mind gets wiped conveniently, because that's what was supposed to happen. And the doctor and Donna take her to that hotel 10 days later, where where her memory comes back.
After she's apparently traveled with him for 10 days. So there could be some big finish in there where you have an amnesiac Agatha Christie traveling with the doctor and Donna.
Or did they just take the TARDIS to 10 days in the future?
Oh, big finishes if they can get the right actress.
They can stick it in, yeah.
That's true.
And,
that's true.
And they've already had the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann, traveling with Mary Shelley as a companion.
It would be fun to have. I mean, I know you're not a big fan of Agatha Christie, but I think it would be fun to have the Doctor and Donna and Agatha Christie going around and having adventures solving some murder mysteries. So the Doctor, meanwhile, after they drop her off, we get that scene back in the TARDIS where we're talking about how wonderful Agatha Christie is. He keeps her books in a chest marked C for Cybermen, Carrionites, a bust of Caesar, and some cables. He shows her Donna the book Death in the Clouds, which apparently has something to do with wasps. I never read it.
It's got a giant wasp on the cover in addition to an airplane in the clouds.
Yes. Published in the year 5 billion, because Agatha Christie is the best-selling novelist of all time.
Yeah. This is a paperback, and if you're wondering why do they have a paperback in the year 5 billion, on the inside of the page, one of the front matter pages, it says replica edition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is like from the year 5 billion. It's a replica of an old style paperback.
So once everybody's reading, ebooks and everything, or having them, just download it into their brains, they still want the sense of reading like actual paper. So they got to have the replicas.
I have replica papyri on my shelf, so I don't know what you're talking about. And that's only 3,000 years. So.
Can you read it?
I pretend to. It's
okay.
So that's how it ends with, as you said, Jimmy, talking up Agatha Christie as if she's the best thing since sliced bread 5 billion years in the future. Any other last notes on this story?
Nope, not here.
I only have 2 additional things. I like in the interrogation scene where everyone's sitting in the chair and having flashbacks that they have to get called out of. After they've run through all the people in the house, with some exceptions I'll mention next, the doctor is just him and Agatha Christie are alone, and he sits down in the chair and he starts having a flashback. This is like the flashback chair.
Yeah.
He starts flashing back to when he was in the forest hunting to find Charlemagne, who'd been kidnapped by an evil robot or something. Yeah. And instead of talking about the implausibility of being kidnapped by an evil robot or computer or whatever it was, Agatha Christie in voiceover says Charlemagne died centuries ago. And the doctor, I love his reaction. He snaps out of the flashback and says, "I've got a very good memory," implying I was alive hundreds of years ago too, and I just remember it. The exceptions, the people who are not interviewed, are all of the servants.
Yep.
One of the things is this episode is like Gosford Park. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Gosford Park, but it's a murder mystery. It's set in an English country house. And one of the key things about Gosford Park is when Stephen Fry, the detective in that case, shows up, he instantly focuses on the upstairs people.
Right.
And assumes it has to be one of them who's the murderer because the downstairs people don't count. And except for Donna noticing that the butler was here when the Wasp was, so he couldn't be the one, there is no attempt to clear anybody who's a household servant. So we've got the Gosford Park assumption in play here. It's got to be the posh upstairs people who are the players. The downstairs people don't count.
Interesting. Yeah, even like Roger the footman, who is having a surreptitious relationship with the son, the Lord's son, is... he could be a part of it. It is never even brought into it except as a sympathetic side figure. He's sort of just a cipher, of course.
And the only reason the butler gets called out is because it's an inversion of the butler did it trope.
Right.
So
exactly.
I know the butler didn't do it.
Right. That's true. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right. So that's the Unicorn and the Wasp. And so I had some campy fun with it. It's not great. It's
Good.
not great stuff. But we got, like I said, we've got some really good stuff coming up after this. The
next 3 episodes of David Tennant we're going to talk about are the 3 that I show people to introduce them to Doctor Who. They are that good. If I have only there's a 2-parter and a 1-parter. If I only have time to show a person 1 episode, I show them the 1-parter. If they're visiting for a whole evening and I can show them a 2-parter, I show them the 2-parter. But it's the next 3 episodes that are so good.
Yes.
They're my introduction to Doctor Who for newbies.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, because I've had people ask me about how do I get started. Starting there might be, and then going back or somewhere. But yeah, interesting. Yeah. Excellent. So before we finish out, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Doctor Who, including Jeremiah N., Irenuz R., Paul O., David M., and Michael V. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give, and we really do need your help, folks, so we really appreciate it. So that's it from us. What do you think of the Unicorn and the Wasp? Let us know by visiting sqpn.com or the Secrets of Doctor Who Facebook page, or send us an email to drwho@sqpn.com. And we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the 4th Doctor story, The Invisible Enemy. Until then, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Doctor Who.
Glad to be here, and thanks, Dom.
And Jimmy Aiken, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Doctor Who on StarQuest. And remember, no one knows how they're going to be remembered. All we can do is hope for the best. Maybe that's what kept her writing. Same thing keeps me traveling onwards.
Right. This is going to be fun.